So, mysterious circumstances for several deaths of members of the AfD party. One is forced to agree this is not normal. So it's actually 6 in total, though of different categories of politicians, 4 of one and 2 of the other. Let's look into what's happening exactly. Breaking from Right Angle News Network, who is not the most reliable, but I think they're right on this one. 4 candidates for Germany's right-wing AfD party have died unexpectedly from causes including heart attacks and strokes ahead of the upcoming local elections, forcing a reprinting and reissuing of ballots in affected NRW districts. So, suicide by 2 bullets to the back of the head, perhaps? I mean, I have tried looking into this, and you'll be shocked to hear this, but the mainstream news is not reporting on it. You'll be shocked. What I was able to find is Grok has a summary, which, again, I'm not sure we can completely trust, but I'll read it anyway. So, Disclose.tv has the story as well. I'll have a look at that in a minute. 6 deaths among AfD politicians in North Rhine-Westphalia, which is, I believe, a region of Germany where the local elections are happening, I think. Before local elections on September 14th, 2025, in a couple of weeks, with 2 additional deaths reported recently, prompting an investigation by the state deputy leader amid the party's rising influence after a 20.8% vote share in February's federal election, which is not a plurality, but it is significant. Historical context reveals AfD's shift from an anti-Euro stance in 2013 to a far-right focus on immigration. That's extreme, Grok. You're being unfair there. With leaders like Bjorn Höcke facing controversy over Nazi-era remarks, suggesting the deaths could be linked to political tensions in Germany's polarized climate, though no evidence confirms foul play. Definitely not how I would have worded it, Grok. The party has been aggressively suppressed by the establishment for years, and this is probably just the latest round. I mean, like, Boeing has killed people, almost certainly. Suspicious circumstances, gunshots through car windows, almost certainly, who were whistleblowers about Boeing's many failures. They killed about 10 people. Boeing has assassins. Yes, the German government has assassins, or at least can field them, or at least allies of the German government, or those that want to see them directed in a certain direction. Yes, they do. That's nice, Marcatello. I don't know, there's still something different about the face, but I do like it. The blonde hair is, maybe it is too much. I'm distracted. Let's focus on the thing. Comparisons to Mexico's pre-election violence noted in the thread align with studies like the 2018 Journal of Peace Research analysis showing a 20% increase in candidate assassinations during competitive elections in unstable regions. Yeah, unstable regions. Germany's not meant to be an unstable region. I was saying this at the beginning of the stream. The UK is in a pretty bad state, and there's many things you can point to. As is France, Germany, a lot of other European countries. Many would argue the UK is in the worst state, and with under Labour as we currently are, it's becoming easier to argue that. But what I can say is I don't believe we've had any political assassinations. And this is 6 all at once, so I'm not sure what that says exactly. Maybe it says that this is not a globalist-led assassination, perhaps because otherwise you would expect the same thing here. Then again, maybe you will see that before Reform gets elected, or maybe it's evidence that Reform are the controlled opposition, or that the true opposition believe they can control them. Though I wouldn't jump on that bandwagon eagerly, it's certainly possible. I'm not sure, perhaps we'll have to find out when things happen, but we've had a lot of local elections here where Reform have had big wins with no political assassinations. You could maybe therefore suggest that it is a local German issue rather than a globalist-led thing, or perhaps there's just a different amount of influence in different places. Perhaps certain groups believe that they can make the assassinations in Germany without having it traced, but couldn't do it in the UK for whatever reason. I'm not sure. But let's keep reading. So the interesting part here is this person asking this conversation says, how did the 6 candidates die? The 6 AfD politicians who died in the lead up to the September 14th, 2025 local elections in North Rhine-Westphalia include 4 candidates and 2 reserve list members. So that's the distinction there. According to reports, authorities have found no evidence of foul play in any of the cases because they haven't been looking, and the deaths have been described as statistically unusual but not suspicious. They are suspicious. I don't know if the individual cases directly warrant it, but they're definitely suspicious. Below is a summary of each individual, including available deaths on causes of death, details on causes of death, which remain limited and undisclosed for most. The 4 initial deaths occurred in August 2025, while the 2 additional ones were reported as part of the same cluster during the election campaign. So Wolfgang cites 59 years old, which is an age at which people sometimes die of natural causes, sure, but it's not that old. Location, Rheinberg, date of death, August 16th, so a couple of weeks ago. Reported cause and details. Sudden death, cause not publicly disclosed, described as unexpected with family privacy cited in local reports. Now, I have seen this happen, family privacy, for the Bowen whistleblowers as well. I suspect some degree of this is either coerced or presumed. So the press presume the family want privacy until the family directly contacts them, which of course the press are limited to ignore as well. To ignore as long as they want, if they wanted to imply the family is the reason the information is not being released. So don't fucking buy it. Almost anything the press says, don't buy it. Be willing to find the deception. I would not be surprised. And then Wolfgang Klinger. There's the connection. They're both called Wolfgang. They must have died because of their name. Or they're both German. Age 71 to 72. I guess that's an uncertain margin, but yes, he's much older. Schwerter region, August 19th, very close together. Unexpected death, cause not publicly disclosed. Could be anything. Stefan Berendes, and by the way, more information may have come out since these or in more refined detail than these about what the cause of death is. We'll try and look into that in a minute, but it's hard to get information on this. Sudden, he's 59 as well, same age. Sudden passing, cause not publicly disclosed. Ralph Klaus Norbert Langer, 66 to 67, sudden death, cause not publicly disclosed. Again, all 4. Renee Herford, reserve list, kidney failure following liver disease. Now that one, if that's truly the cause of death and not a cover-up, that's harder to fake. But I don't know, maybe there is a drug that just causes kidney failure. It wouldn't be a bad method of assassination. It'd be hard to trace, especially if you know they've had a liver disease. If they're a politician, that's likely public. Hell, if the Grok knows about it, it's public. So, yeah, that's perfectly plausible. And then Patrick Teets, suicide. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, chat, how sus do you reckon this all is? Now, if it was 1 at a time, if it was 1 that died, we'd still be right to be suspicious. We'd still be right to be skeptical, dubious, even if it was just a reserve list member, even if it was suicide or kidney failure. There'd still be warrant to say, really? But 6 at the same time, 2 weeks before an election, where AfD is doing better than they've ever done before, I think. No. No. 5 to 6 of these are assassinations. I'm putting out there. These are assassinations. Someone says, once as happenstance, twice as coincidence, thrice as the work of an enemy stand. Oh, yes, I have now watched enough JoJo to know what a stand is. Though I must say, I will continue it, Quattro. But to say to others what I've said to you, I've been enjoying it less and less as it goes on. Series 1 was marginally the best. Series 2 was a little bit less good, but still pretty good. Series 3 I've not enjoyed so far. You know, I think Quattro said Series 3 gets better towards the end, and then Series 4 is really good. I'll keep watching, but that's my opinion of JoJo so far. I'm getting distracted. I'm doing this thing, YouTube, where I do like condensed content just for YouTube, but I'm also so distracted by the community. You should join the community if you're not in it already. And if you want to watch the full stream, you can go to Rumble or you can watch on Discord. I may at some point start doing simultaneously the full stream on YouTube and these sort of cut down mini streams as well. But for now, it's just the cut down mini streams on YouTube. Wolf, you are sexualizing the monster. I'm not necessarily saying to stop. I'm just noting that you're doing it. New AfD party has recorded 6 deaths among its politicians within a short period of time in the run up to the local elections. So this is disclosed.tv. No additional information, I don't think. No, that's the same thing. Yeah, this is all all around the same time. So this is from Hungarian Conservative. Fourth AfD candidate dies unexpectedly ahead of local elections. Another candidate has died. I just want to see if there's any more information here. Local elections, marking a fourth. German outlet AfD's candidate at local Bloomberg, Ralph Langer, died 28th of August. Death automatically rendered invalid polling cards and postal ballot documents already sent out. Langer's case, not the only one. That's all in German. That's a good point, actually. A lot of the news is going to be in German. Ah, Mr. Brickles. We're here. After I've done this recording, I might have you on. Similarly, AfD candidates in Schwerte and Rheinberg passed away just days before scheduled elections. In total, 4 such cases have occurred. So obviously, this is a different article. It's actually 6. Elon said either Germany votes AfD or it is the end of Germany. Slightly apocalyptic, but he's not far off. And this was 31st of August, he said this, in reference to... Yeah, every party except the AfD in Germany, in Cologne, for some meeting I think they were doing, or for in general, promised to only speak positively about immigration. That is dystopian. Straight up. AfD is currently the largest party in Germany. Is it actually? I didn't know that. I thought that they were below the plural. I guess for the last election they were, but maybe they've changed since then. Good. Leading the governing Christian Democratic Union by 2 percentage points in the most recent polls. That's great. That's fantastic. I mean, AfD, I know that there's been some criticism. They're not perfect, but holy shit, are they better than the others? Same thing as Farage here. And then that's just the image. So does anyone have any more information on this? Because I don't think we're going to be able to get more information, are we? If you look on AfD sudden deaths, you'll notice, no mainstream coverage. I'm not saying anything. I mean, AfD is apparently the acronym for a different condition that can cause sudden deaths. So there's some confusion there, but I mean, there's obviously links here, but there's no mainstream news coverage of this at all, even though it's been happening for the last couple of weeks. Now, surely this is when you know that it's being covered up. And the fact that the mainstream press is just not covering it implies it is globalist-led. But then why hasn't it happened in the UK? It may be, genuinely, that it's just harder to do here, but maybe I think that's too optimistic. It might be that the globalists are not one solid union, although the press can make you think they are. It may be that the sort of UK branch of the globalists are separate enough that you can't just go over there and start killing politicians, but you'd think they'd have the same motive for stuff like this. Different approaches, perhaps. They figure they'll try this in Germany, but not try it in the UK, and whichever one works, they'll do more of that. If they get away with this without any major consequences, maybe they'll start doing it in the UK. Hell, maybe it's just because we haven't had any local elections that they consider big enough to be worth doing it, or maybe they realize that Farage is so popular that it would have more of an effect. The AfD, I think it's less individually led, less dependent on the charisma of a single individual. And again, there is the possibility that they believe that Farage is more used to them than he is to us, which I disagree, but maybe they think that. Yeah. Germany is currently leading the polls, says JPEG, who is German. The AfD is the most voting party Germany has, indeed. They would be moderate Republicans by American standards. It's still an improvement. So do you know anything more about this than I do, JPEG? Because I haven't been able to, in the relatively brief research I've done, I haven't been able to find any more information about how these people died or if there's any more information on the suspicious circumstances. But pretty much all I needed to say on this is, holy shit, that is suspicious. It's a bit much. Best I can do is say it looks suspicious, but seems to be natural causes. If it was one person, I'd be dubious of it being natural causes, but 6 at the same time, it can't be. As I said, like, one is suicide, which is suspicious enough. One is kidney failure, which I can definitely believe that there are drugs that can cause that. And then 4 are just undeclared. And again, if it had happened at a random time, it would still be suspicious, but it happened 2 weeks before local elections. I think you compound the factors together, you get to the point that it's practically 100% certain that there was assassinations involved, or that arguably all of them were assassinated. Hell, one of them might have been natural causes, maybe 2, but not 6. Not 6. Even 1 or 2 is unlikely. So yeah, it's extremely, extremely suspicious. Ptosis is not necessary in Britain. You think it is in Germany, by comparison? Both our countries have plenty of problems. Yeah, yeah, that's true. As someone says, their party leader is currently a self-professed Zionist lesbian married to another woman. That's AfD. So the question is, do they embody the right-wing ideals they promote? Not really. Do they still believe them, and would they still push them? I'm willing to believe it. I mean, what better option is there? And if they don't, then at least you know, and you can find a better option. You're going to have to find out. But you know, if you're worried that Farage has controlled opposition, holy shit, have you seen the leader of the AfD? And yeah, they're willing to shoot them, but not Farage's people. So it's all a bit up in the air. I think there's other factors involved here. I don't think we have all the answers yet. Wow, Wolf, you really got that in there. I don't think we have all the factors yet to understand this. Jamie says the AfD leader is a lesbian woman living in Switzerland, married to a black woman. I didn't think she was married to a black woman, actually. I didn't know that part. That's, well, let's just say that's distinctive. I'm glad to see that Nyan Shows is enjoying the cabbies. You arrived after the main bulk of the cabbie stuff. We'll explain cabbie to you after I finish this recording. No, Glossy, and not from me. So yeah, I can try looking for more information. I tell you what I will do, because I'll try looking at a couple of other search engines. The 2 relatively reliable ones for unbiased coverage are X and Yandex. Yandex is Russian. Okay, Europe Reloaded. Statistically almost impossible. Don't pay too much attention to statistics when it comes to how likely events in reality are, because it depends entirely on the domain in which you choose to set limits for the statistics. It depends entirely on what factors you include. It can be 1 in 1, depending on your interpretation, or it can be 1 in infinity, or really any number, probably not infinity, but any finite number, depending on your interpretation. Oh, there is a BBC News report on it, but it wasn't showing up on Google. That's interesting. That's worth looking at, actually. Germany's far right. Not really. Thanks, BBC. AfD suffers series of candidate deaths ahead of local vote. Okay, so they did report on it. This is from today. Why did it not show up on Google then? AfD sudden deaths. Should that not surely find it? Candidate deaths. But sudden's the only difference. Surely that should have found it. Is Google directly suppressing the results, even though the mainstream press have reported on it? I mean, the BBC has, no one else. I haven't seen anyone else doing it, but I have seen Google represent accurately that the mainstream press aren't reporting on something, but I haven't seen Google suppress a story when the mainstream press have reported on it. I'm sure it's happened, but I don't remember seeing it. That's interesting. But here's the BBC's article. As many as 6 candidates for Germany's far right, they say, AfD have died in recent weeks ahead of local elections in the big western state of North Rhine-Westphalia. Will the BBC even give lip service to the notion that this is suspicious? They better do, because it's bloody obviously suspicious. I wouldn't say she's black, but she's not white. Police have made clear that there is no evidence of foul play in the deaths, but it means that new ballots will have to be printed and some postal voters will have to recast their ballots. North Rhine-Westphalia has a population of 18 million and reported 20,000 candidates will run for office in its 14th September local elections. The number of deaths have nevertheless raised questions on social media. They sure fucking have. The state's Interior Ministry has pointed out that the candidates from other parties, including the Greens and Social Democrats, have also died, right? But 6 at a time right before the election? Within a few days of each other, the AfD became Germany's second biggest party in February's federal elections, spreading from its eastern heartland to areas of the west too, but now they are the biggest apparently. The domestic spy agency classified it as a right-wing extremist organization in May, which is not accurate, before placing a pause on that description due to an appeal pending in court. In 3 eastern states, its AfD associations are still listed as extremist, which it's not. Initial reports centered on news that 4 of its candidates had died, and then the deaths of 2 reserve candidates also emerged, prompting a flurry of conspiracy theories on social media. Remember, theorizing about conspiracies is responsible behavior for a citizen in a free country. Conspiracies happen all the time. The term conspiracy theory was weaponized to try to cover them up. And there's nothing particularly wild about any of what I'm saying here. That doesn't mean that conspiracy theorizing and conspiracy theorists can go way off track. Of course, that's a necessary part of the process. You get a lot of waste. In any process, you get a lot of waste. You have to be smart enough to discriminate between the good and the bad. You cannot just write it all off. Besides which, notably, Flat Earth is not a conspiracy theory. There are conspiracy theories around Flat Earth, but let's not get too confused about pseudoscientific hypotheses and conspiracy theories. They are different things. Politics involves conspiracies almost constantly. They happen all the time. Conspiracies are normal. Theorizing about them is responsible. So to write them off by the mere notion that they are theorizing about conspiracies as if that is somehow wrong is mad. It's one of the greatest victories of the various psyops over the last 50 years, is to weaponize that term. Conspiracy is also a crime in many places. Depends, if it's a conspiracy to commit a crime, then yes. Not quite the same thing, but close. AfD Association still initial report centered on news 4 candidates died. AfD co-leader Alice Weidel made no effort to quash the speculation, reposting a claim by retired economist Stefan Homburg that the number of candidates' deaths was statistically almost impossible. Now, again, especially if it is an economist, don't trust statistics for real life stuff. I have seen creationists try to argue that evolution is statistically impossible. Mate, it's 1 in 1 because it happened. Depends on your interpretation. However, asked about the rumors in his party, the AfD's number 2 figure, also 1 in trillion, quadrillion, quintillion things happen every day. Something has to happen. AfD's number 2 figure in North Rhine-Westphalia, K. Gottschalk. Is she German by any chance? Acknowledged on Tuesday that what I have in front of me, but that's just partial information, that doesn't back up these suspicions at the moment. It may very well be that the assassinations were fucking clean. Congratulations, 47. They'll never believe that these were assassinations. It can be done. It can be done professionally so that it looks like an accident. And make it look like an accident. That's an Obito reference. That's very niche. It's definitely possible. But I will agree that 6 at once that are successfully covert and look like accidents is somewhat unlikely, but not as unlikely as them being natural, I would say. Also, the notion of the police potentially covering it up as well, aiding in the cover-up, again, difficult, but possible. Depends how many police are involved. If you've got one leader of the local force, whatever the right name for that is, who's in on it, it's difficult to hide it and get everyone else to conform. They might be suspicious, but also they have a duty, and they might have been less involved than they should have been. There's ways that even I can imagine of doing it, let alone what they can imagine. And that is assuming that you don't have the entire, squad or whatever the right word is, in on it, paid off or threatened. If they're willing to kill politicians, they're willing to threaten police or pay off police, bribe police from positions of such high authority the police couldn't touch them anyway. I don't know. I know this is conspiracy theorizing. It is classic. But at the same time, it's 6 deaths of politicians all from one party right before an election. In many cases, suspicious or not publicly revealed circumstance. It warrants this kind of theorizing, I'm afraid to say. We have to do it. He told Politico's Berlin Playbook podcast that his party wanted the cases to be investigated without immediately getting into conspiracy theory territory. These people have been killed in extremely suspicious circumstances. You must theorize about conspiracies. He said that they had to tread carefully with the families concerned as they had lost a family member. That, of course, is true, but you can still investigate while treading carefully around their emotions. I mean, ultimately, it is more important to find the truth. But if you can balance the two, obviously you should. Subspace says Illuminati confirmed. I don't think so. Unless, of course, you choose to interpret Illuminati as simply a metaphor for powerful groups that act in the shadows, which, of course, do exist. The Illuminati itself is a sort of a term, I think a sort of generic term for a supposed united individual group, which probably doesn't exist. But there will be lots of groups that often correlate in their preferences, which you could abstractly map the idea of the Illuminati onto. But I don't believe a singular Illuminati does exist. Can tell you on good authority there's actually the Camarilla, of course, yes. These 6 broke the masquerade. See, I know just enough about that universe to make that joke. And not, funnily enough, from the Arch campaign. With the Neutronian Maxim. The two further deaths have been similarly described. Natural causes, or the cause was not divulged for reasons of family privacy. Again, as I said earlier, I'm suspicious of that. AfD strategists are hoping for gains in the North Rhine-Westphalia's local elections, which are seen as the first test of voters since the new federal government came to power. Now, to be fair, if they have time to reprint the ballots and get different candidates in those positions, then why would it be worth assassinating them? Because people vote for party, they don't vote for representative, really. They wouldn't lose many votes by this. Now, that is actually, now that I think about it, the first argument against the conspiracy theory. The first argument against it that I have found so far, the very first. That it wouldn't really gain them much because people don't vote for the individual candidates, they vote for the party. What do we reckon the change in vote count would be in percentage? 5%, maybe less. JPEG says AfD might even gain from this because it looks so suspicious. New theory. New theory. The lesbian did it. She did it to her own candidates. No, they faked their death. They're in hiding. They agreed to this. They've been paid off by the party to go into hiding. And they'll come back after the election. I mean, this theory is it's more likely than it being a coincidence, chat. That's the crazy thing. Very silly. Good night, years. Yeah, JPEG, you're right. AfD probably would gain from this. I guess that begins to answer why it hasn't happened in other places, I suppose. I don't know. This is a weird one. Yes, lesbians were responsible for 100% of space crime. That is true. Anyway, excuse me. In the last state elections in May, AfD polled just 5.4% in a region that is home to Germany's industrial heartland. The AfD polled 16.8% in the state in federal elections last February, and polls suggest the party had almost matched those numbers. The party has found support among several leading US figures on the right, accused the German government of trying to suppress the AfD through bureaucracy, which they certainly have been. That's not even disputable. They probably agree with that. Maybe you slightly different wording, but they generally agree. So AfD is in light blue here. Same color as Reform, interestingly. So that's, I remember this. This election results 2025. Leading party in second vote. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Well, I guess this was I think this was earlier this year. I think we looked at this. The AfD, as you can see, do quite well in the east region of Germany. What is that region? Because I thought that was Bavaria, but is that not Bavaria? I think I was wrong about that when I said that before. What is that region broadly called? Because I thought I've been wrong. But this is, I think, an older map. I think this has changed now. Has it changed, JPEG? Is it much more blue now? Of course, East Germany, because yes, they know what communism looks like a bit better. Former German Democratic Republic. Yeah, that makes sense. So, is it more blue now? It is interesting they're using the exact same color as Reform. All right. Well, that's it for the article. You love to see it. The default blue host favicon. You know it's a quality website when you've got the default blue host favicon. Maybe I'll skip this one. Let's see what's available on X. Four alternative for Deutschland candidates died suddenly and unexpectedly right before key state election. Anger in theories. According to WADR, who not excluded, died immediately before the election. The post from four AfD candidates have been 2 weeks. Despite concerns expressed on social media, not much is known about these circumstances. As even over Germany's closed environment, no surprise, the AfD supporters worried about the safety of the candidates. The most attacked party in the country, which I'm sure is true, I suspect it's true. Authorities are print new ballots, some election quickly approaching. That's the only thing. If they assassinate them now and they don't have time to print new ballots, then AfD suffers. But some of these voters have already been sent mail-in ballots. You know what? It could be enough to just, through bureaucratic fuckery, if they've already got people in place to help rig the election, killing these guys and then just delaying the bureaucratic process, even if they become more popular, they get less votes because they've just fucked with the process. Now that's election rigging. And of course, murder. But that I could see. So that brings us back to, yes, it very well could be assassination. That's our most likely theory. If they don't significantly fuck with the bureaucratic process of setting up the election, then it's mystery. If they do, and they try to delay it so that the votes for AfD are reduced because there's no ballots available or because the mail-in ballots need to be resent or they end up duplicated and they end up fraudulently sent in, that kind of thing, then we're right back on board with the assassination theory. JPEG says the West is where most people live. North Rhine-Westphalia is the most densely populated German state. Oh, really? Okay. Those of immigrants, killing these guys is the state where they are the weakest anyway. So strange as well. That's interesting as well, I guess. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't actually for the election. The one thing I could accept is that the election timing could be a coincidence, but that's the only thing that was. Maybe a group of immigrants murdered them. But then you'd think they wouldn't have the intelligence to make it look like an accident, would you? I don't know. I think, like many stories we come across, chat, and like I think is the only responsible thing to do, we are going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to wait for more information to come out, if there even is more information. Test runs as JPEG. That's a distinct possibility, yes. But then you think it's too high profile. You give AfD too much sympathy votes. I mean, you saw what happened with Trump when he got almost assassinated. He was shot. I think it gave him about 10 points in the polls. You don't fuck around with that. You're going to give him too much. Unless, of course, what they're trying to do is kill the party leader. But then, do people even like the party leader? They're voting for the AfD because they're the only party that has a chance of being good. I don't think they're voting for the AfD because of its leader. Maybe some people like her, but it's actually kind of surprising how well they've done despite not having a very charismatic or pleasant leader. Le Pen is fairly charismatic, but granted, Farage, I think, is much more so, which is why he's 10 points ahead almost, or is it? It's about 10 points, close to that. I don't think it would be that, Cybersmith. No, I think if you're trying to hide an assassination, you would absolutely use well-tested means. There's no point doing it by some other means. And if we're talking about a directed energy weapon or something, I'm pretty sure that would show up as very weird in the autopsy. Directed energy weapons, Cybersmith, are not new. They're just not very good. They're good for crowd control. and they're finding new uses now as anti-drone weapons. But that's about it. They're not very good at much else. Anti-missile, they're okay at, but still not great. So yeah, try not to get distracted. I'll read a little bit more from here, but I don't think we're going to find anything else on this right now. Okay, that's nothing new. What's this? It's all in some foreign language. I don't know what it is. This one says 8. 8 sitting members for AfD and 2 backups in Germany dead in a month, 2 weeks before election. No foul play. I think he's wrong. I think it is 6. I think he must have seen 6, and then it's like he's also seen somewhere that there were 2 reserves as well, but he didn't realize that was 2 plus 4, not 2 plus 6. Use Defiant. That's a story for later on this, after I've done this section. Causes. Okay, reported causes from police investigations. Heart attacks, 3 cases. Pre-existing conditions and kidney failure, 2. Suicide, 1. No foul play found. Site health issues details. Maybe 400 AfD candidates. Okay, so the math that they're doing is based on annual mortality rate, and it's based on the number of candidates. That's not a bad way of doing it. There's still other factors that you could bring in, but what they're saying is a 0.00004% chance of that happening. Again, as I said earlier, this is not by any means a certainty. Probabilities in real life don't really fit. There's too many factors. However, this seems like a reasonable distillation of the factors. So I can see where they're coming from with it. I would say, like, yeah, there's 400 candidates, people die like this. But yeah, that it probably is about that unlikely. And the fact that they are heart attacks, pre-existing cases, kidney failure, and suicide, they're not the first things that you'd associate with assassinations, but they are exactly what you'd associate with. I mean, the fact that they are covert ways of dying, but potentially inducible, means they would be an excellent assassination method if you could do it. Now, do we believe that some forces in the world have drugs or devices of some kind that can cause heart attacks or cause kidney failure? Yeah. I mean, there's probably conventional stuff that you can use to cause that with an overdose already, quite easily. I mean, if I overdose on this, I'll get kidney failure. And I'm sure the same thing, well, probably heart attack as well because of the caffeine. Double whammy. They just put them in a cellar, hooked up a drip into their stomachs and just poured Monster down it. That's what did it. So yes, I can well believe that could be done. And unless something else comes out to suggest why this is statistically possible, probable, plausible, I'm going to have to assume that this is foul play. This is easier to induce a heart attack with nicotine. I'm not by any means implying that caffeine is the best way. No, I just suspect it isn't, but it could do. Someone says, wait, do you not know about the CIA's heart attack gun? I have heard people mention it, but I'm not sure how much of a joke it is. CIA's heart attack gun, a Cold War weapon for targeted assassinations. I saw people linking this earlier. Is it electricity that does it? It's a legit thing that worked. Well, Cyber says, forgive me for not taking Alex Jones as an instant authoritative source. He has, after all, stated unambiguously that goblins and vampires exist. But the number of you that are linking it, I'm willing to believe it. Psychic. It wasn't psychic, Cyber said. It doesn't look like it anyway. It is a gun. Cone snail poison dart. Oh, that's what I was already saying. That's a chemical. It doesn't need to be a gun. Nothing special about it being a gun. It's just chemical. it's like yeah, you make heart attack with EM radiation, or no, it's a fucking chemical. Of course it is. It's a poison that stops the heart. Easy. Yeah, you don't need a gun for that. Although, of course, you could use a gun for that. Frozen needle, which would melt afterwards. That's interesting. Did you see gold has jumped 130-ish pound in price last 3 days? I didn't see that specifically. Topic for later. But yeah, well, there you go. So we know that there is a chemical that can do it, as I thought that there would be. I have no doubt there is for kidney failure as well. These, absolutely. Summary, for conclusion, for this videolet, for this little streamlet, yes, these absolutely could have been assassinations, in my humble opinion. And I believe that is the more likely answer. There are a few factors that confound that potentially, much more likely. And what you need to look out for is the German state bureaucratically messing with the elections in these regions, German state or other agencies or forces, to try to capitalize on this to reduce the actual votes the AfD get, even though this will probably increase their popularity. It may reduce their votes because of bureaucratic fuckery. That's what to look out for. We will await more information before I comment on it again. Thank you for watching this streamlet, which is what I'm going to call them now. There may well be another streamlet today, so keep an eye on the YouTube channel. Join the community if you would like, cabal.oozloo.net, and you can also watch the full stream on Rumble as well. Oh, wow, pug. Join Cabal. We're going to have an intermission now between this and the next major segment, where we'll talk about community stuff. Thank you for joining me, everyone, and best of luck to Germany.